Welcome to the Our Vision Caribbean and Latino Filmmaker Podcast, hosted by Charles Aline and Dr. Christopher C. Odom. On this episode, we speak with emerging filmmaker Áron Ferenc Kostyál about how he explores and interprets culture as a Mexican-ized Hungarian-born filmmaker living in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We also have an in-depth discussion about Áron's latest work, a short film entitled Hide, Escondete. This episode is sponsored by the Our Vision Caribbean and Latino Film Festival, which is dedicated to ensuring that Caribbean and Latino filmmakers have a voice that's heard and a wide audience to showcase their work.
Welcome everyone to Our Vision Caribbean and Latino Filmmakers Podcast. Today we have an incredible young filmmaker from Budapest via Mexico. And I'm going to let him introduce himself, and he's going to tell us more about him. Go ahead, Áron.
Hello. My name is Aron Kostyal. I'm Hungarian. I was born in Budapest, but when I was 7 years old, my family and we decided to move to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, which is a beautiful place. And I love it particularly because of the Mexican culture. And I'm particularly grateful to Mexico because it's a very welcoming place, and it's one that has allowed me to make movies about it, which is what I really love to do: make movies, do things with my camera, mess around, and hopefully tell a good and impactful story.
Este episodio está patrocinado por el Festival de Cine Latino y Caribeño Our Vision, que se dedica a garantizar que los cineastas latinos y caribeños tengan una voz que se escuche y una amplia audiencia para mostrar su trabajo. El Festival de Cine Latino y Caribeño Our Vision es el único festival de cine latino y caribeño combinado que califica para los Oscar a los cortometrajes. Cada año, Our Vision proyectará a los ganadores de las categorías de cortometrajes en vivo en los cines en ambas costas durante una semana como parte de los requisitos para la consideración del Oscar. Haga clic en el enlace en nuestro perfil ahora para enviar su película al próximo Festival de Cine Latino y Caribeño Our Vision para compartir su trabajo, llegar a su audiencia y convertir sus sueños en realidad.
Cool. That's perfect, my man. So you say you were born in Budapest and moved to Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah.
How was that move for you mentally, socially, culturally? How did that? I know you were 7 years old. How did that impact you? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it was strange, because you feel like an outsider in primary school. I remember everyone was Mexican, at least in the school where I went. And I was like the only boy that's from Central Europe, where you can't even pronounce his name. And, it was a very interesting experience. But like I said, most people were very welcoming. And, I think it has given me a large perspective over life, because I've seen many people from many different origins. And it's particularly funny to me how different people react to different cultural and socioeconomic situations. It's like there's a completely different world out there in Europe and over here. I particularly love the order behind the chaos that occurs in Mexico versus the political correctness and how do I say this? Like the functional law enforcement in Hungary. I love both places. I'm not gonna lie, but I love chaos more. So yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So I want to dive in a little bit more about the chaos. When you use the word chaos, exactly what do you mean? I mean, give me some examples.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this, but basically in Mexico, there's a strong culture behind drug cartels. There's a strong culture behind not following the law as much. There's a strong culture around freedom, particularly. And it's something that I found very interesting, and something that I want to make more movies about, is just, how liberal the mindset is, and how that can be very freeing to the soul. Yeah, that's part of what my last short film was about, was how, when you allow people to just be free and follow their own rules, they can have a lot of fun and they can have an amazing life. Yeah.
That's actually a very sophisticated perspective of how you're sizing up the culture in Mexico, especially for a man of your years. That it's not so much about illegality, that it's about freedom. Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually correlates a lot with the right wing people in America are obsessed with
Right.
freedom, and the people that they're actually targeting often in the United States, which is the Mexicans or the Mexican criminals, are also obsessed with the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Freedom to live my life on my terms.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like that. And I like that in Mexico there's like this understanding that obviously, if you come here as a tourist and you go to the safe places, you will never really learn about these things. But basically, there's this culture that, if you're nice to people, if you make good contacts, if you have good friends, if you don't go to too dangerous places, you'll be fine. You're good. If you mess around, you do too many dangerous things, you're not very nice to people, there's a risk that you get disappeared sooner or later. and I love that, I feel a bit like an imposter talking about that, because I'm not from here originally.
Yeah.
But I've lived like, oh my God, my light turned off. But I've lived like pieces and elements of that, and I find that fascinating.
So everything you said applies
ahead,
to life here in the United States about,
really?
The code you should live by, except the disappearing part.
Oh, right. Yeah, you get sued in the U.S.
Yeah, you can get sued or you can get arrested, but you usually don't disappear. It can happen, but that's not as common.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Yeah.
Well, in America, you have to have that structure or that illusion of safety, right? So to use the word disappear is a little harsh for American culture, basically, because we have to sustain that illusion of safety and stability. So, that's just an illusion, but you could disappear in America also.
Of course.
Just changing the subject a little bit. How did you get into, I don't want this to be like an interview on Mexican culture, because I love Mexican culture. I've been there, and that's how I met you. And it was a great, it was really great. I love the people, love the country. I can't say anything. I have very good experience, so I can't say anything bad about Mexican people.
Mm-hmm.
But so now you are in Mexico. How did you get into filmmaking?
I got into filmmaking theoretically when I was 4 years old, and and I was with my grandma. Excuse the voice crack. I was with my grandma, and I made her write this script in a napkin because
nice.
Because I didn't know how to read and write at the time, and she did. So she wrote the script down, and it was like a cartoon that involved Puss in Boots and Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings. It was like a mix of the three. And and it had a whole story, everything. It was a masterpiece. But then we finished it, and she was like, well, no, I was like, Grandma, can you make this into a movie? And she was like, no, we need a lot of money for that. We can't make this into a movie. And then I remember she took me to the mall later that evening, and I was crying the whole way. I was broken deep inside. And from that point on, I've been trying to get rid of that frustration by making movies.
I mean that's a really great tale. You know, you involve your grandmother into your, into your spirit, so to speak, into your
Yeah.
filmmaking journey. Did you ever, at any point, did you ever get a chance to fulfill that dream of a 4-year-old and make the Star Wars Puss in Boots, the whole nine? Did you ever able to accomplish it?
No, no, I wish. Well,
That sounds like it would be a really funny YouTube parody if you didn't want to
that
do like a short
exactly,
video.
exactly. So now that you mention it, I'm thinking about it. Maybe I will. Yeah. Maybe the napkin is somewhere and we can just create that script. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great story. I love it. I mean, it's very human. I love the whole bringing your grandmother into it. So now you realize that at 4 years old you wanted to be a filmmaker, and you needed to get that energy out of you, because you see from that point you started to pursue it because you wanted to get that energy out. You wanted to be a filmmaker. So
Right.
when did you make your first film?
So I started by making YouTube videos when I was,
Okay.
how old was I? I think I was 12.
Okay.
And and they were YouTube gaming videos. I would play Fortnite and Call of Duty. And
Okay.
that's how I started. But deep inside I always knew I wanted to make I wanted to make movies, like narrative film. And so it wasn't until 2020, was it 2022? No, excuse me, 2021, when I got into this film class, like a short film workshop, where I was taught like the very basic principles of script writing, cinematography, casting, directing, narrative storytelling. And up until then, I was making, my content had switched up a little. I was making like commercial spec commercials on my YouTube channel. They weren't amazing, but I had a lot of fun making them, and I learned a lot of basic cinematography from them. But from this class specifically, I made my first short film, which was about how my first relationship ended.
Oh.
And it was a very personal story. And people said that they were hit by it, like emotionally. So I think despite its technical shortcomings, in my book, that short film was a success. So yeah.
Cool. So how would you describe going from shooting YouTube videos to making a short? How was that journey? What was that journey like?
It's drastically different, because in my experience, when I was making YouTube, I was doing everything by myself. I was whole day at my house just shooting things in my room, like going to the store, getting some materials and shooting stuff, and that was it. But in movies, everything takes longer. I've realized everything is like 5 times the length of time. It was very frustrating at first. Like you have to cast, you have to write a functional script, you have to make people agree with you, which is obviously it's a lot harder when you have no money to make the film. So I really learned to appreciate like coordinators in general in any field, because it really does take an effort to make people agree to do one thing and then actually execute it. And then on top of that, like having a good execution is, it's hard, but I love it.
Okay, but I think that's really cool. But share with the audience, like,
Yeah.
okay, when you finish the script and you cast it, how's casting? How was that experience like? And then when you get to the post production, how was that like? Give us pre-production, production, and post production. Walk us through those
Okay.
three
Very well.
parts.
Okay. So pre-production was I was just talking to my professor about what to write about, because I didn't know what to write about. Like the initial stories that I wrote were very they weren't personal at all. They were just like what I thought would look cool in a first time short film. And then he told me, like, when you do a movie, you have to, it's almost like real storytellers, real filmmakers, when they have a story that they really care about, it's like they have, how did he say, they have like a ball on their throat. It's like something that they just want to scream out, something that they haven't processed, something that they don't know how to process. So they do it through film. And, you know, that's exactly what I found in the story that I ended up telling. So writing for me was basically just staying up late at night and filling the pages and then getting feedback from my writer friends. And that was that. You know, I think it ended up being a decent script, but it's a shame that we didn't get to shoot the whole thing, because in production was more interesting. So as a part of the workshop, the way this workshop is supposed to work is you get $10,000 worth of equipment, which includes a great camera, lighting gear, microphones, audio gear. It includes everything, like the boxes, what are these things called? Like the tripod things. I can't remember the name right now, but so it included all of those things. But for whatever reason, in this workshop, instead of having 10 people, only 2 people signed up. One of them, one of them was the writer that I worked with, and the other one was me. So because I was the director, I basically, one day I had $10,000 worth of gear in my room where I slept. And, you know, it's not this room. It used to be a much smaller room. So I remember I barely had space to walk around, and I had like this incredible gear.
What kind of camera did you get?
It was a Blackmagic. I can't remember which Blackmagic, but it was like a big one. It definitely wasn't the pocket size.
It was like an Ursa Mini.
Exactly. That's the one.
Wow.
Yeah, you guessed it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a nice camera. And the director gave me a Zeiss lens, like a 15 millimeter Zeiss lens. Yeah. So that was very intimidating. And what ended up happening was, in terms of casting, I forgot to mention casting. I didn't really cast anyone. I just wrote the characters for people that I already knew, and people that were really good friends of mine. So I knew they would take the part, and I knew they would have good initiative because, you know, I know them. I knew them from heart. So I got the story only ended up having 2 characters really, and one of them was my close friend at the time, and the other one was interesting because we were supposed to shoot with my friend, another close friend of mine who had agreed to take the part, but he got sick the day we were supposed to shoot. So good thing my writer friend was there. He didn't write this script, but he was helping me out in production. So Rodrigo, that's his name. Rodrigo figured out somehow. He messaged, I think, like 50 contacts, and then one of them just matched the character, and then that guy appeared, and I met him on set, and it was a very humbling experience. The first day of shooting, I remember I woke up at 5 a.m. We got lent a truck to put all the gear in. You know, all the people who I worked with were very supportive. It was only really my father and Rodrigo, the writer I was talking about, and another friend who I met some days before. So it was a humbling experience because I remember the audio didn't work, and then we had problems with the lighting. We were shooting in a really sunny day, and we didn't have an ND filter. So the movie looks kind of dirty because like the apertures are all the way up, and it doesn't look as pretty as I wanted it to, obviously. And then what else? I remember there were more problems. Oh yeah, and then the lens got dirty, and then you can also see that in the movie. So yeah, so it was a rough day. We went to 2 locations with the truck. I remember that was the first time I experienced like the mental exhaustion you get from directing movies, because you don't realize it. I mean, you look at Martin Scorsese. At this point, he's probably like sitting at his chair, giving instructions. You don't realize. I mean, as a first-time filmmaker, I didn't realize at the time that there's a great mental stress behind that, and there's a great exhaustion that comes during and after that, especially with all the problems that arise. So we were supposed to shoot an 8-page script in 2 days. And I wanted to do it very professionally. I wanted, I had like this very advanced shot list and very detailed plans. And the audio was supposed to be super crisp. And because I took so long with every shot, we only ended up shooting 3 minutes. No, we shot more than 3 minutes, but because it was out of order, we could only use 3 minutes because there were like holes in the middle. Like the rest of the scenes wouldn't have worked. So I remember I entered like a bit of a depression after that because I got really disappointed. Like I thought this was supposed to be easy. You just give orders, you have actors, you have people working for you, you hold a camera. No, it's much more complicated than that, I realized. So after that, like a few weeks in, I was really struggling to edit it because I couldn't look at it. I would die inside every time I looked at it. And especially because it was a very personal story. I was like, if I publish this, like everyone's gonna know I'm an idiot. Like I'm an idiot, not only romantically, but also in filmmaking. So I'm a double idiot. So I can't let that happen. But eventually, like my mom and other people that I really trust, they gave me the confidence to edit it and finish it. And it's up on YouTube, but it's in a very small channel. So I didn't want many people to see it. But I'm thinking of re-uploading it because the people that I did send it to, I still don't know if they were being nice or if they were genuine. I believe they were genuine when they said that it generally did impact them emotionally, which I believe is the mission. It's the core of every story.
I like to tell my students that success is determined before you even make the movie. It's in your plan.
Really?
If you don't plan, you plan to fail. You have to have a plan that's going to work. So you already determine if you're going to succeed, if you have a realistic plan. Then on the flip side, even if things don't go to plan, the audience cannot telepathically read your mind. They just accept what says on screen as your vision. And they go, oh, wow, yeah, this is good. I liked it. I related to it. He was very open. And you're like, this is not my vision. But, the audience just accepts it. And so you're your own worst critic. Sometimes you just have to go with it.
Right. Yeah. So
I want to share something. I want to share something with you. I mean, as a first-time filmmaker, right? I also, when I did my film, my first short film on my own was called 2 Words, right? And I was so proud of it. I loved it. I thought that I was thinking the whole world was going to love me, right? I was like, what a brilliant filmmaker, right? I was expecting cheers. I mean, I was expecting everything because look at, I pulled this off. I'm a young guy. I pulled it off. I shot it. I produced it. I wrote it, directed. And I was like, oh my God, everybody's going to love me. They're going to want to know, how did this guy pull this off, right? So I finished the film. I got it out there. And oh my God, the feedback, and everybody interpret that film how they want to interpret it, right? Yeah. And I got a lot of backlash because a lot of people misinterpret it, right? And I got a lot of like, how dare you? What kind of movie is this? How, what are you trying to say, right? And I could not accept that. I was depressed. So I'm sharing this with you because after that, because the people misread what I was trying to say, I was kind of depressed, and I was like, you know what? I might never make another film again. I was like, I didn't get the love that I thought I was going to get. I didn't get the reception that I thought I was going to get. I just got a lot of like, you need to have a broader view. You need to be bigger. And I was like, what? I'm a first-time filmmaker. I'm not Martin Scorsese here. I'm just a first time. Why are you putting all this on my shoulders? And I was depressed. I was like really, really depressed. So I know exactly how you feel, especially when you create something. So it took me a while. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. This is not what I signed up for. And actually, a good friend of mine talked me into doing another movie. He taught me into like, he was like, no, you're good. You know, you're good. You can't quit. Right. And he was like, you got to do another film. I believe in you. You're good. You're a good filmmaker. Don't take on what people say. You know what you're all about. And he kept saying, oh, you need to make another film. You need to make another film. And that's when I made my feature. After I followed up that, I made a feature, right? And he was like, I'll support you with everything you wanted to do. He had a business, and he was like, I'll back you whatever you want. This is how much I believe in your ability. And he put up a lot of money for my feature. So I only said that sometimes the audience don't get it right. You know what you're trying to say. Yeah. And so always believe in your vision.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
Este episodio está patrocinado por el Festival de Cine Latino y Caribeño Our Vision, que se dedica a garantizar que los cineastas latinos y caribeños tengan una voz que se escuche y una amplia audiencia para mostrar su trabajo. El Festival de Cine Latino y Caribeño Our Vision es el único festival de cine latino y caribeño combinado que califica para los Oscar a los cortometrajes. Cada año, Our Vision proyectará a los ganadores de las categorías de cortometrajes en vivo en los cines en ambas costas durante una semana como parte de los requisitos para la consideración del Oscar. Haga clic en el enlace en nuestro perfil ahora para enviar su película al próximo Festival de Cine Latino y Caribeño Our Vision para compartir su trabajo, llegar a su audiencia y convertir sus sueños en realidad.
Cool. So now you finished that film and you got that on your belt and you get it out to the audience, you get some response. What was the next move for you? What was the next film? What was that experience like?
The next move was to take a break.
Okay.
Because just like you said, I didn't even get the backlash. Like I said, like I showed it to a very limited amount of people. All the feedback was good, but I was just so disappointed because I didn't get my 8-minute film out. It was just like you said, it's just people see what you show them, you know. They can't read your mind. They can't read all the things you want it to do. They don't read the script, obviously. They watch the movie. So I was just so disappointed after that. I didn't do much for a few months. I went back to making YouTube videos, which was like fun for a while. And then I realized, nah, I gotta make another one. I gotta do something more. Yeah. And then I made another short. It's called Chronicle of a Victory. It's about yet again I cast my close friends, and it was about these 3 guys. I made like the most ridiculous story I could think about at the time. I'm sorry, my English gets broken sometimes, but
not a problem.
Okay, very cool. So the point of the story was these friends, they are at like a gamer sleepover party, and one of them drinks like the last bottle of Coke without asking anyone else if they want any. And then this whole conflict builds up between the 3 characters, and they end up playing an Uno game where they decide the person who loses the game is the one who goes to the store and buys the next Coke. So at the end, what happens is Oh wow. So man, I went a bit cultural on that one. But basically there's this phenomenon in Puerto Vallarta specifically. I don't know if it occurs anywhere else outside of Mexico, but there are a lot of immigrants who don't really speak Spanish, so they get taken advantage of. So what happens at the end of the story is the American boy who put up the whole house party, he gets screwed over, and because he doesn't know any Spanish, so he has to go buy the Coke, and then that's the end of the story. And I wasn't making any political statement. It seemed funny to me at the time.
So for our audience at home that that doesn't live in a border state, a Mexican Coke is not made with fructose corn syrup. The one in a glass bottle is made with pure cane sugar, and it tastes like 500 times better than like a can or a plastic bottle of Coke in America. And so that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Glass bottle of Coke in Mexico. It's really good.
Yeah. I don't know how it is in the US, but I think like Mountain Dew is more popular there, if I'm not mistaken. But I might be very ignorant.
We've got a lot people who prefer more caffeine in a soda drink Mountain Dew.
Exactly. No, in Mexico, like in Mexican families, Coca-Cola is like king. Like it's good. Like, but you don't really have like a family dinner, a family supper without at least like a big bottle of Coke. So that was part of the movie as well. Very cultural, that drink. Yeah.
Cool. So you did that. You did that film. What was the reception for that film like? What was that? How was it received when you showed it to your friends and family?
They liked it. Well, some people. I think that might be like the most controversial thing I've made, because some people liked it. They were like, "Oh, this is brainless, but it's funny." Obviously, that hurts, right? And then some people were like, "Yeah, this is funny, but there's no point to it. There's no soul to this." And that really did break me a bit, because it was like the professor I was talking about at the workshop. The workshop had ended at that point, but I sent my movie to him, and that's what he said. He was like, "There is no point to this."
Really?
Yeah. He was like, "This." I want to send you to the short film. I want to see what you think. I'm very curious. But yeah, he basically told me, "Well, yeah, this made me giggle, but then I realized there's no point to it, so it ended, and I forgot about it." So obviously, I also did sacrifice a lot of things for that short film. Like it's a small thing, but it's like, at least for me, I did invest like my whole heart into it at the time. It was like I stopped having a social life for a month or two, and I was getting bad sleep, and my grades also worsened because I was just so busy writing and producing and trying to make things work. So yeah, that definitely, it left me like wanting to prove myself, that movie, because everyone was saying like, "Yeah, this is pointless. Like, it's funny, there's decent cinematography, the story is pointless." And so that's when I made the last film that I've made to this date, the third short film, which is the one that went to the festival. Yeah.
Story and cinematography are proven tools that can create a great movie-going experience, but ultimately, if the viewer has a good experience, it's just a good experience, even if it's not even if it's not a good story, if it's not good cinematography, if somebody was like, "This was just a great experience, it was fun, it was entertaining, it lifted up my day," it's a good movie.
Well, maybe. Yeah, that's true, of course, but that's not how I want it to be remembered. I think I think the three of us at least, or like I think cinema, like movie makers, all of us, we have like this ego. Like we want to be remembered for being like the epic
Lumiere.
Yeah.
Auteur.
Yeah. Like the epic storyteller, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think we all desire that. Or am I wrong?
No, you're
Right?
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. You're
We
absolutely
all
right.
dream.
Yeah, we all
Exactly.
dream to be like remembered for our masterpieces and epic films and stuff like that. So you you have this film now that's doing the festival circuit. How did that came about? I got an opportunity to saw that film. I really loved it. So tell us a little
Thank you.
bit about that film.
Okay. So that film was that was the first film I directed also that wasn't written by me. It was written by the writer I mentioned previously, Rodrigo Galvan. And what happened was it started off as, again, a very like it didn't have a deeper meaning when we started to make it, you know. The story was, I think I told this in the interview as well. He had this chase with his little nephew, and at the end he was like, he ended up pushing him over, and he was like, you're the, how do you say, do any of you know the phrase los traes in Mexico, or is that too foreign?
Los Traes.
Los traes.
No.
Okay, it's like, what's this? Like, you're the catcher. What's this game where you just run around and you touch people? And you're like, you're it. Tag.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So in America, do you say like you're tagged or something? Or do
You're
you
it.
just
You
You're
say
it.
tag, you're it. Yeah.
you're it? Okay, cool. So that was the phrase I was looking for. So Rodrigo was like, you're it, to his cousin. And then he ended up running away. And somehow that inspired him to make up this story about two children who were running around, and we were made to believe that one of them was a bully and the other one
Yes.
was running away. And at the end, you know, we find out they're just playing games. Like they're just children, you know. And when he told me that story, I think what I love about that guy is he's very humble about his creations. When he told that story, he was like, whatever, you know, I have this story. But when I heard it, I was like, nah, there's potential here. This is generally good. This could have an emotional impact on people. This could, like, the feeling of surprise can be really meaningful in this case. So that's when I pursued him to make, like, because I think the initial story was written in a notebook, and it was just a story. We didn't have a script. So I pursued him to write an actual script that was functional, and it had like most of the plot elements, because originally it was just going to be the story of the two kids running around chasing each other, and that's it. And there's no like escalation there. So we eventually finished writing the script, and we actually had a lot of discussions, because I wanted to make the thing more meaningful. I wanted to add like politics into it. We had like whole debates about whether like one of the kids was supposed to be a gangster and he was going to pull out a knife. And then there was this confusion about the knife. And, you know, so we were trying to complicate a story that didn't need to be complicated. And eventually we both settled on a very simple story. And then I think it was October last year when I casted the film. Excuse me. We were given access to the school where Rodrigo works in, because he's a teacher. So we were given access to the school, and I casted like 30 alumni to see, obviously, who can play which part. And I'm very happy, very grateful, because we were given like the perfect actors to play. Like physiologically, they definitely matched the look that I was going for. And also as actors, they acted very well. You know, they were They were very respectful. They were disciplined in a sense. They could listen to my instructions, and it was a great experience working with them. So yeah, the production, that was the smoothest production I've had. It took us, despite it being a 3-minute piece, we did it in 2.5 days, because this was my first time genuinely trying to invest myself in the quality of the film as much as I did. So I took my time even more with the shots. I took my time with the lighting. I consulted a photography professor from Guadalajara on how I can light this short film, because the problem that we would have had originally was there are a lot of white walls in the school where we shot the film. Yeah. And so, the professor I talked to, Raul, he gave me a magnificent piece of advice. He was just like, well, that's part of the school. You can't change that. What you do is you just add like a layer of shadow on the character. So you add like this, we just used a black cloth, and it made the right light reflect in a way that it casted a shadow on the face of the main character. And that's how we shot it. That's how we made it more 3-dimensional. And yeah, another interesting thing was the school where we shot the movie at. Normally, during recess, like the school is filled with children. It's so filled. I don't know how it works in American public schools. In Mexican public schools, it's just filled to the brim with children running around during recess. It's like you can't move almost. So it was very challenging to recreate that, because I only had, I think at most there were 12 extras I could work with. And so to me, it's very funny. If you look at the movie, like from an analysis perspective, if you try to analyze every shot, you can probably tell there are a lot of empty spaces in the school where there would normally be a lot of children. So what I did was I just put the kids in little groups, and I placed them in the most convenient places in the shot. So I placed them in the thirds where I know everyone will look at. And, because it's a short film as well, and, it's an action piece, people aren't focusing on every single detail as much. They don't have the time to. I think I managed to fool the audience into thinking that this was an actual school recess. Yeah.
I saw the film. What's the name of the film? Could you give the audience the name of the film?
It's called Hide in English, but originally in Spanish is Escóndete.
So I did watch Hide. I thought it was extremely well directed. I thought it was well written.
Wow.
Only a very brilliant filmmaker can carry a film with no dialogue. You carried it masterfully.
Thank you very much.
Just with visuality. I love that the sound design was brilliant. The mix was brilliant.
Oh.
You had the intensity. We live in an environment that is so heavy. People are disappearing. I love that you brought us to the edge of our seats, and then it just turned out to be a game of tag. And it left you feeling like there was hope. It's not all about being disappeared. Kids can still be kids and have fun. It's not all disappearing. And so, yeah, brilliant. I would compare it to the work of Orson Welles in the way you were able to, trick the audience.
That's a huge honor. Wow. Thank you. I never thought I'd get that comparison. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes. That means you have a bright future ahead of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So you mentioned the sound design, and I have to give special thanks, like special credits in terms of sound design, because my good friend Carlos Charlie Santana, he made the whole sound design and the whole soundtrack in his studio, and he did it all for free. And it's a very funny story, because I know that guy because he's the father of one of my friends from primary school.
Okay.
And that friend actually helped me out. They have the same name. That friend, Carlos, We're gonna call him Carlitos, so you can make the distinction. Carlitos helped me out to shoot the film. He was holding the lights, he was holding the microphone, he was helping me out, coordinating the kids during the shoot. And then Charlie, he decided to basically lend me his studio, and he showed me his talents as a musician and a sound designer, all for free. And I remember being extremely grateful to him, and I still am today. And if anyone watching this podcast has any business with audio in Puerto Vallarta or in Jalisco in general, I can definitely recommend Pro Santana. Yeah.
All right, so some workshop questions for you.
Yes.
Like when you direct, what is your approach, or do you have a specific type of director that you like to follow? Who's like some of your favorite directors?
Ooh, I like the main guy I really like is Damien Chazelle, because I've heard stories of how he directed Whiplash, and from what I understand, he did it in 28 days, and he did it super fast. And the way he managed to do it, and the way he managed to execute it so well, was because he just planned for everything. And I understand he had very precise drawings of every shot that he wanted to make. He had the whole movie pictured in front of him. And I tried to copy that approach in a sense. I made an animatic for the film. And before the soundtrack was even done, I tried to like play some sounds in there to see how it would work out. And I can tell you today that helped me tremendously, because it gave me an idea of how the flow, how the rhythm, how everything was going to work. And it's definitely an approach that I'm going to use in the future. I'm currently working on another short film. We are just finishing the script. This is a much more ambitious one. So yeah, I'm planning to use the same approach. So as for improvisation, for example, I remember reading this quote by Sidney Lumet, who made his excellent book, Making Movies. I can also recommend it to any filmmaker. Like, that's just a good book for anyone who's interested in movies in general. But in that book, he says that when you are prepared, when you are planned for everything, when you're ready, it's easier to improvise, because you have all the variables in front of you. You don't have to second guess almost anything. So you can improvise scenes, you can make scenes better, and you can just follow your original plan as well, and you can make a great movie. So yeah.
I like to say that plan B is your plan, but plan A is going with what works organically. When you get on set, you might see an angle that you didn't see before. You might see the actors interact in a way you couldn't see before. You got to go with what works when you're there. And if there's nothing magical happening, then just use the plan.
Exactly.
And the storyboard plan B.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah,
that's really cool. So you said that are you in pre-production with this new short, or are you just in the writing stage?
We're starting pre-production. I'm making so I like I said, this was my first experience with casting. I don't have that much experience. I'm trying to see if I can look for, this story is also about children. It's about middle schoolers as well. But this one is a bit more complex, because there's a lot of dialogue, there's more in-depth emotions, parental, social situations that I know for me it would be hard to act. So I'm trying to figure out exactly how to recruit all these people with the resources that we have at hand. So I'm on that right now. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Usually with this type of podcast, we usually ask, because we usually have like older filmmakers.
Oh yeah.
So you're unique in that you're the youngest filmmaker we had so far. So
an honor.
It was sort of great, like having this discussion with you, because it sort of reminded me, like, I used to think that way when I was younger. I had that.
Oh really?
I had that that life, that energy. Yeah, like the way you're talking, I quoted everything. I talked filmmaking from top to bottom. Orson Welles, Alfred Hitchcock, how to do this, how to take this shot. I was just really into it, right? But as you get older, you find your voice and you become more settled. But I'm saying this, like, just keep that energy as long as possible. Don't become an old filmmaker. Stay a young filmmaker as long as possible.
So, although you've been one of the youngest filmmakers, you've actually been one of the best filmmakers.
No way.
We've interviewed.
Hey, thank you. Wow.
Yeah, because it was nice talking shop with you, right? So most of the older filmmakers, we don't get to talk shop like how you did, meaning how to go through the whole process of filmmaking.
I remember the shot through the bushes. And I was like, oh my God, this is advanced.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, how old is this guy? 60?
Come on. So that was real cool. All right. So usually what we say, we ask, like, what kind of advice would you give to young filmmakers? But I can't put you in there. Usually towards the end of our podcast, we say, like, what kind of advice would you give to young filmmakers that's trying to break into the industry? I don't know. What kind of advice would you give to your peers?
Well, I can pass on advice that I actually got from Silverio Palacios, mainly at the festival where we met. And that advice is, don't be afraid to be wrong.
Yes.
You can be wrong as many times as you want. And most people, like, they might care at the beginning, but they forget, and you shouldn't care anyway. You should just do your thing. And I think with progress and with mistakes, then you can make more responsible decisions. You can make better decisions in terms of your filmmaking, your marketing, who you are, what type of movies do you really want to make. I think you can only come to those conclusions once you've made an abundant amount of mistakes.
At UCLA, when I got my master's in film and television, they would tell us to fail big. And that way you'll never lead a life of regrets. What if I had done this and what if I had done that? Just go for it and you'll never have regret.
Exactly. A life without regrets is the only life worth living, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, Áron, I want to thank you for coming on this podcast. This was a really great podcast. I really enjoyed interviewing you. And I want to say thank you.
All right.
Thank you to you too.
And before we let you go, Áron, if somebody would like to collaborate with you or wants to reach out to you to hire you for some work, what's the best way to learn a bit more about you and to contact you?
Okay, so my Instagram is okay, I have to change this. My Instagram is grep.yeah. So it's you can see I'm young when you hear about this. So it's CREPE.YE. Grep.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have to adjust some things, but all my work is up there. And anyone who wants to contact me can reach out to me through there. I think that's probably the best source.
Awesome.
So, okay. And I wanted to thank you too for it was an honor to meet you both, first of all. And thank you for having me on this podcast. It was a great experience. My first podcast.
You're welcome, my friend.
And it won't be the last.
I hope not. I really hope not. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Have a good day.
You too.